Welcome on all to the final week of the supremacy.net Let's Play Summer School, hosted by none other than Rhete. And seeing as this is the finale, he's devised a very simple challenge. Play as a girl, and the game can't be Metroid. That's all there is to it, no other extra stipulations or challenges, just play as a girl. And because of this, it's given me an excuse to play one of my favourite Super Nintendo games of all time for you here today, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, released for the Super Nintendo in 1994 by Bandai, who also incidentally created the toy line that came out based on the TV series. Also there was a couple of films. The gameplay couldn't be simpler. We're playing as Trini, the Yellow Ranger, though at the moment she's just plain old Trini. You attack with the Y button, you jump with the B button, and your basic task is to go around Angel Grove doing battle with everyone's favourite incompetent minions, the Putty Patrol. We also get to confront monsters of the day released by Rita and Finster, such as this one. His name is Bones, but more about him later because it's morphin' time, bitches! Yes, less than a minute in, we've already magically transformed into the Yellow Ranger. This causes Bones to bugger off because he doesn't want to piece us right now, instead sending in more putties that we take down in short order. Also, if you're an epileptic, you might want to look away now, because when you morph, you get access to a screen-clearing bomb that you trigger with the X button. It's also very useful against bosses, as you'll see later in this video. When you transform into your powered-up Ranger form, the controls stay the same, but the effects of them are very different. As you can see, we're now armed with a pair of weapons. The show called these weapons power daggers, but in reality, they're more like butterfly knives, or Sai, like Melee uses in the Mortal Kombat series. Morphing also has a couple of extra benefits. Firstly, it will completely heal any damage you've taken in the run-up to confronting the monster of the day, although you didn't see that because I hadn't taken any damage prior to Bones showing up. And also, it changes your combos considerably. Now you can play as all 5 of the core main Rangers in this game, obviously. Sadly, no Tommy/Green Ranger, because I don't think he'd shown up at the time this game was being made, although, given which monsters show up at the end of the game, that's debatable. As with the TV series, each Ranger has their own unique weapon, and these are implemented very well in the course of the game. Jason has his power sword, Zack the Black Ranger has his power axe, Billy the Nerd, the Blue Ranger, has his power lance, although I think it's more like an extendable trident personally. As seen here, Trini, the Yellow Ranger, has her power daggers, and Kim has the best weapon of all because she has the power bow. And more on that later. Also, putties can't drive apparently, because they just put that truck straight into the wall. Now, the Putty Patrol are the main enemy you'll face throughout the course of the game, and there are several different variations on them, which is usually depicted by their colour, though not always. The pale grey putties are your standard putties who go down in one hit. Purple putties are the same as the pale grey ones, but take a few more hits to kill. Green putties can jump and kick you, but they take one hit as well. Dark green putties also, for some reason, I have to destroy this car. You don't actually have to in the course of the game, it does nothing. But because of Super Street Fighter 2, every time I see a destructible vehicle in a game, I have to destroy it, whether you have to in the game or not. Dark green putties are the same as the pale green guys, but they just take a few more hits to kill. Also, god damn it, every putty is armed with a knife, and I was so close to clearing this screen without taking a single hit. Clearing 2 screens in fact, and then that guy stabbed me in the back. There are various other different variations on putties, and I'll mention them even when we come up to them. Also, you have an air throw as a ranger, which is... I didn't know you had that until I started recording this, but it's not that useful because only those guys jump. Now, once you clear 2 or 3 screens, you'll have to face a monster of the day. In this case, our monster is Bones. Now, Bones actually holds the distinction of being the first monster the Rangers ever took on and subsequently defeated in the course of the TV show. He appeared in High Five, which was the 2nd episode of the series. And in the course of the game, Bones will use his sword to fight you. He will try and lunge at you, but you can just duck that. And also, he can fire an energy projectile, although you actually see that because I kicked this guy's ass, quite frankly. Also, the bomb is so useful against boss fights. That's one of the problems I have with this game. The boss fights take way too long. They're fun, but they have just way too much health. Second form then, he scatters and reforms out in the arms. He jumps around shooting fireballs at you. He did this in the TV series as well, because this was Bones' main gimmick. He couldn't be defeated, he could just keep reassembling himself. Fortunately, Jason the Red Ranger found an ingenious way to kill him. He slam-dunked his head into a volcano, and in the process possibly picked up the award for Badass of the Year for 1994, because that's just amazing. Anyway, his third form, all his bones evaporate and the head just remains. But he's kind of tricky to kill, and god damn it, I took another hit just before the end of the battle, because he only takes 4 hits in this form. Seriously, once you get to this, there you go, he's dead. I did it again. I did it to myself again, god damn it. Now every time you defeat a boss, the game is nice enough to give you a password, and this is another reason why I love this game so much, because while there's no way of actually saving your progress within the game, you can just use the passwords to easily get to a level that you played before but maybe died right at the beginning. I'm ranting. Let's just pick Kimberly for a change of scenery and go straight to Area 2. I should also mention that, without trying to sound too much like a fanboy, Kimberly was by far my favourite out of the 5 original Rangers. In fact, I'm not ashamed to admit that back in my younger years, I had a bit of a crush on her. Not so much now, though she is still acting, even in her 40s. She's the only one of the 5 original Rangers to still be acting. Also, I love how the putties are so dumb in this game. They will actually get taken out by hazards, because as well as the Putty Patrol, you also have to deal with some mechanical hazards that presumably Rita Repulsor has set up to try and impede your progress, such as these 2-way directional cannons. But the hazards can also kill off the Putty Patrol, especially if they can only take 1 hit. Also, in the first level, you notice those metal birds that drop bombs. You can actually destroy them. You can destroy most of the hazards in this game, so they're not that hard. Why would you want to when they're actually taking out your enemies for you? But yeah, going back to my point about Kimberly, she is, to my knowledge, Amy Jo Johnson, who played her, is the only one of the 5 who is still regularly acting to this day. Obviously, sadly, Tui Trang, I can't pronounce her name, but the girl who played the Yellow Ranger sadly is no longer with us. She died in a car accident in 2001. David Yost famously stopped acting. Walter Jones, I think, stopped acting as well, and so did Austin St. John, the Red Ranger. Now, speaking of hazards, sadly those barrels, you can destroy them, but they will not attack the putties for some reason. Also, we have a new type of enemy here, shield putties, and they are dark grey, but again, this is purely for cosmetic value. I do like the sprite work, though, that Bandai did on the Putty Patrol. It really does look like them, right down to the white belts and boots that they always used to wear. But now that I think about it, although their belts were white, they didn't actually wear gloves and boots, they just had hands and feet made of darker clay. So on second thought, maybe Bandai didn't do such a great job with the putty sprites, but no, I'm nitpicking. I think they did a pretty good job. You can certainly tell who they're meant to be. They could maybe have done with giving them, I don't know, some stripes, because the putties in the TV shows had stripes on their bodies, especially in the original Japanese footage, which came from a Super Sentai show called Super Sentai. I can't pronounce Japanese. We've established this in Parodius Week. Yes, Week 5 is now Parodius Week to me for some reason. But it was called, I think, Zio Ranger. I could certainly spell it to you, but that wouldn't be very entertaining. Sadly, the same cannot be said for some of the Power Rangers themselves. The girls got off pretty scot-free. Kimberly and Trini look pretty much like their real-life counterparts. And I suppose the same could be said for the Jason sprite. He does look a little bit like Austin St. John. But Billy and Zach, my god, they got the wrong end of the stick. Billy looks nothing like David Yost used to. And don't even get me started on the sprite they used for the Black Ranger. It is ridiculous! And while I'm on the subject of the sprites, it's painfully obvious that all 5 of the Ranger sprites, when the teens have morphed, are basically just palette swaps. Also fighting a guy off screen, because that's something you always do in beat-em-ups. Anyway, running to the left here to fight our second monster of the day. God, he's an ugly bugger. So once again, it's morphin time, and now I get access to perhaps the best character in the game, bar none. Well, certainly it's a toss-up between the Pink Ranger and the Blue Ranger, because now you can use the power bow to lay the smackdown on the putties and anything else that gets in your way. 2 reasons why the power bow is so good. Length of reach, and also it's a projectile. If you press up and Y when your ranger has a weapon, they will do a power move. In the case of Kimberly here, she shoots an arrow. The arrow can also stick into the scenery and be used as a platform, but you won't see me use that because it's a novelty gimmick. It's not that useful in the course of combat. It is useful, however, for attacking these putties from a long range so they can't stab me in the face. And I happen to like my face, goddammit! I need my face! I'm very attached to my face! Anyway, we now go from outside the factory to inside the factory, which is of course a natural progression. And it's pretty much more of the same. That's perhaps another flaw of this game. It does get a bit repetitive because it's just go into a location, beat up putties, fight monster of the day, kill monster of the day, rinse and repeat. Despite this, I still maintain this is one of the best games the Super Nintendo ever produced. Anyway, we now change tack a bit here because we introduce some platforming elements. All these robots can be destroyed with your weapon, except for that gold spinning wheel, which is completely invincible, so don't even try it. The game introduces to us is Conveyor Belts. Now in theory, this is supposed to make the game harder for us because, obviously, traction on conveyor belts is tricky. In practice, it actually makes things easy because it brings the putties directly to you, where you can just stab them in the face with your power bow. Although when there's falling metal like this, it is a little bit more tricky. And usually I do get hit by the falling metal. Here I got remarkably lucky because there's no real pattern to it. Also, I'd just like to point out that the putty patrol can and do get taken out by the falling metal. As I've already pointed out, the putties are dumb as hell in this game, and normally I'd be complaining about bad AI, but in this case I'm not. Because it actually almost makes the game more realistic, because in the TV show, the putties were thick as pig shit as well. So it almost adds to the feel that rather than just playing through a video game starring the Power Rangers, it's almost like you're playing an extended episode of the TV show for yourself, obviously with some video game elements added to it. Now the game loves to throw these sections at you where you're fighting multiple putties at once, and I have just 2 combat tips for you. Also blow open these tanks to find a health pack. In later levels, the health packs get replaced by food, but it's just a sprite change, it does exactly the same thing. So, combat tips for fighting the putties then. Duck all the time, if you can, because that seems to throw them off. And also, try and get them to attack you from just the one side. The game does this time and again. It throws multiple enemies at you from left and right, you get caught in the middle, and you get really hurt by it. If you can find a way to maneuver them so they're on one side of the screen, you're facing them, and jump attacks are the best way to do this, then you're laughing because you can just destroy them for fun and profit at your own leisure. Another advanced trick here is the wall exclusive to Morphed Rangers. There's also a backflip that you can do by pressing the jump button twice in quick succession, but it doesn't really do anything useful, it just looks cool. Although, nothing wrong with looking cool, I guess. Another tip I can give, on a screen such as this one where you have like higher ground you can retreat to, it might seem like an advantage because you probably think you can attack the putties without them retaliating, but it's actually a detriment to you because sometimes you actually hit the putties while they will always hit you, either to stab you underneath your legs where your sprite isn't. Put it down to video game logic, or in this case put it down to poor hit detection, either way it's annoying. Now, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was perhaps, well, it was one of the biggest shows of the 1990s, but perhaps it was even the biggest show of the 1990s. Okay, so you had things like The Simpsons, it was pretty big in its own right as well, but The Simpsons didn't shift nearly as much merchandise, also that was stupid by me, The Simpsons didn't shift nearly as much merchandise as the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers did. When the show first came out in 1994, kids were absolutely hooked by it, and they all pestered their poor parents and drove them to distraction by asking them to get the Megazord, or the Rangers, or the Monsters, or the Putty Patrol. I should know, I was one of those kids, and I drove my poor parents batty the first Christmas Power Rangers came out. Did you know the Power Rangers toys created by Bandai, they actually sold out the first Christmas they were released? Up and down the country there were poor parents who had driven like over 2 hours just to get one for their kid. Also, there's those Mace Putties are another variant. Later in the game you will encounter putties with guns who go down for a couple of hits, and black eye putties who are the strongest of the lot. If you were paying attention in the first level, you might have also spotted some brown putties, or as I refer to them, ninja putties, because they make very dramatic entrances, like taking off disguises after hanging out in the background, or breaking through windows, or appearing in a puff of smoke. But this is just for aesthetics, and they are no different to your regular purple putty. Area over! And now it's time to take on another Monster of the Day / boss. This guy is the Gnarly Gnome, and I really don't like him. The gnome will teleport randomly around the room, and he has one of 3 attacks. He'll try and hit you with his garden rake, because he's a gnome. He will squeeze his accordion out at you, and it sort of goes out in both directions, or he can fire a purple fireball from the top of his rake. However, if you just stand in the middle here with the Pink Ranger, your range is so great you'll always hit him. And if you hit him, he won't be able to attack. The gnome appeared in episode 5 of the TV series, A Different Drum, where he kidnapped a bunch of girls that Kimberly was trying to teach how to do gymnastics, but of course there was one deaf girl in the group, and he couldn't kidnap her because she couldn't hear his accordion that he used to enchant them. There were lots of cool or even iconic villains in the early days of Power Rangers. This guy wasn't one of them, the iconic villains being Eye Guy, Pudgy Pig, or King Sphinx. What is it with Rita in alliterative or repeated names for her monsters? One more thing about the Power Rangers before we finish off the video then. Why is it that Zordon chose 5 teenagers? Why were they the ones that decided, well, here's a sorceress, they've got the best chance of beating her then. Why didn't he go, Alpha, Rita's escaped. Get me 5 members of the American Special Forces. Or, Alpha, Rita's escaped. Recruit me Chuck Norris in the A-Team. And I was hoping to finish this guy off with the power bomb, because it would have been a really cool way to finish him off. As he went to his second form, he just teleports randomly. But I had to settle for hitting him in the big toe, and he goes down. Take that, you overgrown garden ornament. And that'll do it, not just for the video, but for the entire Let's Play Summer School. I hope you all enjoyed it. I certainly did. And join me next time for whatever.